Welcome to Finance Talks Podcast. I'm Ryan, and today we're going to explore one of the most practical topics when it comes to personal finance: 10 easy ways to save money. Now, saving money doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, there are some really simple yet powerful strategies that anyone can implement, and they don't require drastic changes to your lifestyle. Whether you're trying to build up an emergency fund, save for a big purchase, or just want to have more control over your finances, this episode is for you. Over the next couple of minutes, Priya and I will guide you through these methods, and I'm sure you'll find at least a few that will work for you. We're talking about things like tracking your expenses, setting a budget, and making smarter choices when it comes to your spending habits. It's all about finding small, easy ways to save that add up over time.
Exactly, Ryan. I'm Priya, and I'm excited to be here with you all today. What we're going to talk about in this episode is not only practical, but also totally achievable. Saving money doesn't have to mean giving up everything you enjoy. It's about being mindful of where your money goes and making small adjustments that make a big difference in the long run. We'll start by looking at the importance of tracking your spending. Once you know exactly where your money is going, it's much easier to figure out areas where you can cut back. Then we'll get into setting a realistic budget, one that helps you save without feeling restricted. We'll also talk about simple ways to save, like cutting unnecessary subscriptions, cooking more at home, and switching to generic brands. We're all about helping you find easy, practical ways to keep more of your hard-earned money. By the end of this episode, you'll have a toolkit of strategies you can use right away to start saving, and we promise it won't feel overwhelming or unrealistic.
We're also going to dive into some clever ways to save on the things you're already buying, like using coupons, deals, and cashback offers. Trust me, these little steps can really add up over time. And if you've never thought about automating your savings, we'll explain why that's one of the easiest and most effective ways to build your savings without even thinking about it. Plus, we'll talk about how small changes to your utilities and buying in bulk can lead to even more savings. These are things that anyone can do, and they don't require a lot of time or effort.
And of course, we're going to talk about something that trips up a lot of people: impulse buying. We've all been there, making a purchase we didn't plan for, only to regret it later. We'll give you practical tips on how to avoid impulse purchases, like setting up shopping lists, waiting 24 hours before buying something, and more. The key is creating habits that help you stay on track with your financial goals, and that's exactly what we're going to help you do today. So, whether you're new to budgeting or looking for new ways to save, stick with us. By the end of this episode, you'll have 10 actionable steps that will help you save money and feel more confident about your finances.
All right, let's jump into our first tip: track your expenses. Now, you might be thinking, why is tracking my expenses so important? Well, let me tell you, it's the foundation of any solid financial plan. If you don't know where your money is going, it's really hard to save or make adjustments to your budget. When you track your expenses, you gain awareness of your spending habits, and that's the first step toward making better financial decisions. For example, you might not realize how much you're spending on things like coffee, takeout, or online subscriptions. By tracking your expenses, you can spot these small leaks in your budget and start to plug them. It's all about knowing the full picture of your finances so that you can make informed choices moving forward.
Exactly, Ryan. And when it comes to tracking your expenses, you don't have to make it complicated. There are plenty of simple tools you can use. For instance, you can start by using an app designed for tracking your expenses. Apps like Mint or YNAB, You Need a Budget, are great because they automatically categorize your spending, and some even link directly to your bank accounts, so you can see exactly where your money is going in real time. If you prefer something a little more manual, a simple spreadsheet works just as well. You can create columns for different categories like groceries, entertainment, transportation, etc. This way, you can see how much you're spending in each area, and over time, you can notice patterns in your spending behavior.
That's right. One of the most effective ways to track expenses is by looking at your monthly spending. For example, let's say you decide to track all of your purchases for a month. At the end of the month, you might realize you're spending a lot more on dining out than you thought and less on groceries or essentials. That's valuable information because now you can make adjustments. Maybe you decide to cut back on eating out or meal prep for the week to reduce costs. The key here is consistency. If you track your expenses every month, you'll start to see trends and can make small changes that have a big impact.
And tracking your expenses doesn't just help with saving money, it also helps you understand your financial goals better. If you're aiming to save for a vacation or buy a new gadget, tracking where your money goes helps you prioritize your goals. Maybe you decide to skip that extra coffee every morning and use that money for your savings instead. It's all about building awareness, and once you have that, you're in control of your finances, not the other way around.
Exactly, Priya. So, to wrap it up, tracking your expenses is an easy and incredibly effective way to start taking control of your finances. Whether you use an app, a spreadsheet, or even a notebook, the important thing is that you start. The more you track, the more you'll realize where your money is going. And that's the first step in cutting back on unnecessary expenses and starting to save more. Now that we've discussed tracking your expenses, the next step in taking control of your finances is setting a budget. A budget is like a roadmap for your money. It helps you figure out where your money should go so you don't end up spending more than you earn. It's incredibly important because without a budget, it's easy to overspend or not save enough. By having a clear budget, you're making sure that your money works for you instead of the other way around. And I'll tell you, having a budget in place is a game changer when it comes to financial stability.
Absolutely, Ryan. But we know that creating a budget can sometimes feel overwhelming. Where do you even start, right? Well, a really simple and effective approach is using the 50-30-20 rule. It's a rule that divides your income into three main categories: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings or debt repayment. It's simple, but it gives you a clear framework to follow, and it works for almost anyone, no matter how much or how little you earn.
Let's break that down. The first 50% of your income should go toward your needs. These are the things you absolutely must pay for, like housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, and insurance. Essentially, anything that you can't live without. The key here is to focus on essentials, no splurging on extra luxuries in this category.
Right. And then 30% goes toward your wants. This is the fun part. The things you enjoy but don't necessarily need to survive. We're talking about things like dining out, entertainment, travel, or shopping for clothes. The 30% for wants is important because it allows you to enjoy life while still being responsible with your money. It's all about balance.
And then the final 20% is for savings and debt repayment. This part is crucial. If you're trying to build up an emergency fund, save for a down payment on a house, or pay off credit card debt, this is where you put that money. If you don't have any debt, it can go straight into savings or investments. But if you're paying down debt, make sure you're giving that 20% priority to get rid of high-interest debt as quickly as possible.
Exactly, Ryan. And what's great about the 50-30-20 rule is that it's flexible. If you find that you're spending more on your needs or wants, you can adjust the percentages slightly. For instance, you might need to spend a bit more on your rent, so you could lower your wants to 25% for a few months. The key is to make sure you're still hitting that 20% for savings and debt, because that's what will secure your future financial stability.
Now, a big part of setting a budget is also about making it realistic and achievable. Don't set yourself up for failure by creating a budget that's too strict or unrealistic. For example, if you're used to spending 60% of your income on wants, don't try to cut it down to 30% right away. You might get discouraged. Start small. Maybe cut it down to 45% for a month and see how it feels. Gradually make adjustments as you go. The idea is to create a budget that you can stick with long term.
Right. And remember to track your progress regularly. A budget isn't something you set once and forget. You should review it each month to see if you're sticking to your goals or if you need to make adjustments. This is where tracking your expenses really comes into play. If you're spending more on wants than you planned, you can tweak the budget and make sure you're staying on track with your savings or debt repayment.
Also, don't be afraid to adjust your goals as your financial situation changes. For example, if you get a raise, you might want to increase the amount you're saving, or if you're trying to pay off debt, you could allocate a little more towards that. Flexibility is key, and as long as you stick to the basic structure of the 50-30-20 rule, you'll be in a good place.
Exactly. Setting a budget is all about giving yourself financial freedom and control. You're telling your money where to go rather than letting it control you. It's empowering, and once you start seeing results, it'll motivate you to stick with it and make smarter financial decisions.
So, in summary, set a budget that works for you using the 50-30-20 rule and adjust it as necessary. Make sure it's realistic and flexible, and don't forget to review it regularly. With a solid budget in place, you'll be well on your way to saving more and feeling more confident about your finances. Let's move on to one of the easiest ways to save money: cutting down on subscriptions. Now, in today's world, we've got subscriptions for pretty much everything: magazines, streaming services, gym memberships, apps, and even food delivery services. But here's the thing: a lot of these subscriptions are things we don't actually use that much, and they're often easy to overlook, right? You sign up for something and forget about it, or you're paying for a service you don't really need. But when you add up all these little monthly charges, they can really start to drain your bank account without you even realizing it.
Exactly, Ryan. And the best part is that cutting down on subscriptions is one of the simplest ways to save money because it doesn't require any big lifestyle changes. Just a little bit of awareness and a few decisions. Let's start with the most obvious one: streaming services. How many of us have subscriptions to multiple platforms like Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime, and Hulu? It's easy to get caught up in having all of them, but when you really think about it, do you watch all of them regularly? If not, you could cancel a few or downgrade to a less expensive plan. For example, if you're mostly using one service, maybe it's time to drop the others for a while.
Exactly. And this goes for a lot of other services too. Magazine subscriptions are another big one. You might have signed up for a magazine years ago thinking you'd read every issue, but how many times have you actually read it cover to cover? If you're not using it, it's time to cancel. I know I've had subscriptions to certain magazines in the past that I thought I'd keep up with, but after a few months, they just piled up, unread.
And it's not just media subscriptions. Think about all the different memberships you might have. Gym memberships are another sneaky expense. How often are you really going to the gym? If it's once or twice a month, maybe it's better to cancel that membership and opt for home workouts or outdoor activities that are completely free. You can still stay active without paying for a gym you hardly use. Or maybe you can downgrade to a more basic plan that gives you access to the essentials without the extra perks you don't need.
Great point, Priya. And that's something a lot of people overlook. They just keep paying for these services because it feels like only a few bucks a month. But when you multiply those small expenses across a year, it adds up fast. The trick here is to sit down and really evaluate what you're paying for. You don't need to keep paying for things that you're not using or that aren't bringing value to your life.
Exactly. And don't just assume that you'll remember to cancel them. It's easy to forget about these recurring payments, so one good tip is to reevaluate your subscriptions every 3 to 6 months. Set a reminder on your phone or write it down in your planner to go over all your recurring costs. Check your bank statements or use apps like Truebill or Trim to help identify subscriptions you might have forgotten about.
That's a really good point, Priya. You'd be surprised how many people forget about subscriptions that they signed up for, like trials that automatically renew or premium services for apps. By reviewing your subscriptions regularly, you can cut the ones that you no longer need, and it's a great way to free up money for savings or paying off debt, which is the whole point of this episode.
Another way to manage your subscriptions better is by consolidating. For instance, maybe you don't need multiple streaming platforms for just a few shows or movies. Consider bundling services if possible. Some services offer bundles where you can get access to multiple platforms for a discounted price. But always make sure you're actually using them. There's no point paying for something if it's just sitting there unused.
Right. And remember, this isn't just about cutting everything, it's about being smart with where your money is going. Subscriptions can be a great service, but they need to fit into your life in a way that's actually useful. If it's not bringing value, don't hesitate to cancel it.
Exactly, Ryan. So, to sum it up, go through your subscriptions, cancel anything you're not using, and reevaluate every few months. It's a simple way to save money without affecting your lifestyle too much. You might be surprised at how much you can cut out just by taking a few minutes to review your recurring charges.
Yes, and those savings add up. Imagine taking that extra money and putting it towards something more meaningful, like your savings account or a vacation you've been wanting to take. Small changes like this can make a big difference in the long run. All right, moving on to another great way to save money, cooking at home. Now, eating out or ordering food delivery is convenient, but it's also one of the easiest ways to drain your wallet. When you stop and think about how much you're spending on takeout, coffee runs, or dining out every week, it can really add up. In fact, the average person spends hundreds of dollars a month on eating out. But the good news is, cooking meals at home is a much more affordable option, and believe it or not, it can also be a lot easier than you might think.
Exactly, Ryan. When you cook at home, you're in control of both the cost and the quality of your food. Let's break it down. If you're eating out, you're not just paying for the food. You're also paying for the service, the ambiance, and sometimes even extra charges like tips and delivery fees. For example, a single dinner for 2 people at a restaurant could cost you $30 or more, whereas you could cook a similar meal at home for a fraction of that cost and have leftovers for the next day.
And that's not even considering how often we eat out for convenience. Maybe it's lunch at work or grabbing a quick dinner after a busy day. But imagine instead cooking a simple, healthy meal at home for a fraction of the price. And it doesn't have to be complicated either. You don't need to be a gourmet chef to make delicious meals. In fact, you can start by making meals that are easy to prepare but still full of flavor. The more you practice, the quicker you'll get at it, and the more you'll save.
Exactly. And here's where the real savings start to add up. Meal prepping. One of the best ways to save time and money when cooking at home is by preparing your meals in advance. If you take some time on the weekend to plan out your meals for the week and prep the ingredients, you'll save time and energy during the week when you're busy. For example, you could chop vegetables, cook grains like rice or quinoa, and portion out proteins into containers. When it's time for a meal, all you have to do is throw everything together. No need to spend 30 minutes cooking from scratch every night.
Meal prepping is a game changer. And another great tip is to start cooking simple go-to recipes that you can make in big batches. Things like soups, stews, casseroles, or stir-fries are great because they're quick, easy, and can be made in large quantities. This not only saves you time, but also helps you avoid wasting ingredients. When you cook in bulk, you have meals ready for the next few days, and you're less likely to grab takeout when you're too tired to cook.
Exactly, Ryan. And I've personally saved so much money by cooking in bulk. For example, last week I made a huge batch of chili. I bought all the ingredients in bulk, like canned beans, tomatoes, and ground meat, and cooked enough to last for a few days. Not only did I save money on ingredients by buying in bulk, but I also didn't have to worry about cooking for a few days. It was all ready to go. I just heated it up, and I had a hearty, healthy meal in minutes.
That's such a great example, Priya. Cooking in bulk really helps stretch your budget. Plus, if you make larger portions, you can freeze leftovers for later so you're always prepared. That's another way to save money and avoid the temptation to order food when you don't feel like cooking. You already have something ready to go.
And let's not forget about grocery shopping smartly. The key to saving money on ingredients is buying in-season produce, taking advantage of sales, and planning meals around what's on sale. I've found that buying in bulk for items like grains, pasta, and beans also helps me save a lot. These are pantry staples that last a long time, so they're a great investment. Also, consider shopping at local farmers markets or discount stores. You can often get fresh produce at a lower price than supermarkets.
Great point, Priya. Another tip is to make a grocery list before you go shopping and stick to it. Impulse buying at the grocery store is a huge money waster. We've all done it, grabbing snacks and extras that we don't really need. If you plan your meals ahead of time, you'll know exactly what you need, and you can avoid those unplanned purchases.
Exactly. And one final tip is to start experimenting with recipes that use fewer ingredients but still deliver on taste. Simple dishes like rice and beans, pasta with vegetables, or a hearty salad can be both inexpensive and nutritious. Over time, you'll build up a collection of budget-friendly recipes that you can rotate. And before you know it, you'll be saving tons of money just by cooking at home.
To wrap it up, cooking at home doesn't just save money, it can also be healthier and more satisfying. By meal prepping, cooking in bulk, shopping smart, and experimenting with simple recipes, you can cut down your food costs without sacrificing quality or flavor. So, the next time you're tempted to grab takeout, think about how much you could save by making a delicious meal at home instead. Now, let's talk about something that might surprise you: buying generic brands. A lot of people assume that generic or store brand products are lower quality, but the truth is, many of them are just as good as the name brand items, and they're a lot cheaper. If you're looking to save money, switching to generic brands for things like groceries, cleaning products, or even medications can add up to big savings over time.
Absolutely, Ryan. And the great thing is that generic brands don't just save you a few cents. They can save you a significant amount over time. Most of the time, these products are made in the same factories as the name brand items, so the quality is often comparable. The main difference is the packaging and the marketing. Name brand companies spend a lot of money on advertising, packaging, and endorsements, which you end up paying for. Generic brands cut out all those extras, which is why they're able to sell the product at a lower price.
Exactly, Priya. And honestly, I was a little skeptical at first when I switched to generic items, especially for things like medications and personal care products. But after trying them out, I realized I wasn't sacrificing quality at all. For example, I switched to a generic brand of pain relievers, and honestly, they work just as well as the name brand version. Plus, I was paying half the price. I started making that switch for more and more things like cleaning supplies and even canned goods, and I was amazed at how much money I was saving.
That's a great point, Ryan. It's easy to overlook how much we spend on name brand items simply because we've always bought them. But like you said, many generic brands offer the same product without the extra costs. If you take a look at your shopping list, you might find there are a lot of items where you can make the switch. Things like paper towels, toothpaste, or even rice. All of these often have a generic version that's just as good.
Right, Priya. And another area where switching to generic brands can make a big difference is with your grocery shopping. For example, I buy generic cereal, milk, and pasta. And honestly, I can't tell the difference in taste or quality from the name brand versions. By making those simple changes, I've saved a lot of money without sacrificing the things I enjoy. And when you add that up over the course of a year, it really starts to add up.
Exactly. And it's not just the everyday items that can be switched out. Even things like household cleaning products, which we use regularly, have generic alternatives that do just as good a job. I used to always buy the name brand cleaning sprays, but when I started buying the generic ones, I couldn't notice a difference in how well they cleaned, and I was saving so much money.
And that's the key, being open to trying out generic products in the first place. It's easy to stick with what we know, but once you start experimenting with generic items, you'll likely find that you're not sacrificing quality at all. In fact, you might even find that some of the generic options are better than their brand name counterparts. And the best part is that you're saving a lot of money in the process.
Absolutely. One final tip. It's always a good idea to read the labels when switching to a generic brand. Sometimes the ingredients in the generic version are almost identical to the name brand product. If the quality is the same, you're definitely getting a great deal by choosing the cheaper option. Just remember, the goal is to save money where you can without compromising on quality.
So, in summary, buying generic brands is a simple yet powerful way to save money without compromising on quality. Whether it's food, cleaning products, or personal care items, you'll find that the generic alternatives often do the job just as well. The next time you're at the store, try opting for the generic version and see how much you can save. Now, let's talk about one of the easiest and most effective ways to save money: using coupons and deals. If you're not already using coupons or looking for special offers, you're missing out on an opportunity to save big. Coupons aren't just for extreme couponers. They're for anyone who wants to get the best deal possible on their purchases. Whether it's discount codes for online shopping or paper coupons for in-store purchases, taking advantage of these deals can really add up.
Exactly, Ryan. And the best part is that finding coupons has never been easier. You don't have to spend hours clipping from newspapers anymore. There are so many websites and apps now that give you access to discounts with just a few clicks. Sites like Retail Me Not, Honey, and Coupon Cabin offer a ton of online discount codes for stores, restaurants, and even travel. All you have to do is search for the store you're shopping at, and these platforms will show you any available coupon codes.
And speaking of online shopping, if you haven't heard of browser extensions like Honey or Rakuten, you're missing out. These extensions automatically find discount codes for you when you check out online. Honey, for example, automatically applies the best coupon code to your cart. It's a simple tool that can save you money with absolutely no effort on your part. I've saved a ton of money on things like clothing and gadgets just by using these tools.
Yes, and there are also cashback apps and websites that let you earn money back on your purchases. Websites like Rakuten, formerly Ebates, offer cash back when you shop through their links. It's not just online stores either. You can also earn cash back on things like groceries, restaurants, and even gas. So, if you're planning to buy something online or in person, it's worth checking to see if cashback is available.
That's a great point, Priya. And I know a lot of people don't realize how many cashback options are out there. For example, if you're planning to do some shopping at Walmart, Target, or Amazon, you can go through Rakuten to get a percentage of your purchase back. It's like getting paid to shop, and it doesn't cost anything extra. All you need to do is make sure you're shopping through the app or website link.
Exactly. It's a super simple way to get back some of the money you've spent. And another great strategy is signing up for store loyalty programs. Many stores offer rewards for regular shoppers, and these rewards can turn into discounts or free items down the road. For example, I get 10% off my purchases at a local grocery store because I'm part of their loyalty program, and they often send me coupons via email. This helps me save on everyday purchases without any extra effort.
And if you're into grocery shopping, here's a quick practical example of how you can use coupons effectively. Every week, I go through the grocery store circulars, check coupon apps, and visit the store's website to see if there are any special promotions. For instance, if a store is offering a 10% discount on a specific product and I can find a coupon for that same product online, I can stack the savings. Using coupons in combination with sales is one of the best ways to save money on food, which is often one of our biggest monthly expenses.
That's exactly how I save on groceries as well, Ryan. I also use apps like Ibotta, which gives cash back for grocery purchases when you scan your receipts. You don't even need to clip physical coupons for this. You just select the offers you want on the app, buy the items, and upload the receipt for cashback. Over time, I've earned back a good amount of money just by using these apps every time I go shopping.
That's a great tip, Priya. So whether you're using cashback apps, online discount codes, or physical coupons, the key is to stay on top of deals and take advantage of them when you can. It's all about making a habit of looking for those extra savings opportunities, especially when it comes to big-ticket items or regular purchases like groceries.
Exactly. A little effort here and there can lead to big savings over time. So, make it a habit to check for coupons or use cashback apps before making a purchase. Trust me, the savings add up faster than you think.
Next up, let's talk about automating your savings. If you find it difficult to set aside money for savings each month, automating your savings could be the solution you need. By setting up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings account, you ensure that you're saving consistently, without having to think about it. This is one of the easiest ways to build your savings without any extra effort, and it's a strategy that can help you stay on track with your financial goals.
Exactly, Ryan. The beauty of automating your savings is that it takes the decision-making out of the equation. Once it's set up, the money is transferred automatically, and you don't have to worry about it. You're essentially paying yourself first. The idea is to treat your savings like a regular expense, just like paying your rent or your utility bills. By prioritizing savings this way, you make it a consistent habit, and over time, you'll build up a nice cushion in your savings account.
That's right, Priya. And here's the best part. When you automate your savings, you're less likely to spend money that you intended to save. Think about it. If you wait until the end of the month to put money into your savings, there's a chance that it might get spent on something else. But by automating it at the beginning of the month or as soon as you receive your paycheck, you're ensuring that you're sticking to your savings plan. It's out of sight, out of mind, which makes it a lot easier to save without even thinking about it.
Exactly, Ryan. And I'll share a little bit about how I've done it personally. I set up automatic transfers directly from my paycheck, so a portion of my income goes straight into my savings account as soon as it hits. I don't even see that money in my checking account, which makes it easy for me to forget about it and not spend it. I started with a small amount at first, just $50 a month. And over time, I gradually increased the amount as I got more comfortable with saving. It's really helped me build up my savings without any stress.
That's a great example, Priya. And the cool thing is that you can adjust how much you save based on your income. You don't have to start with a huge amount. Even if you can start small, the key is to make it automatic so that it's happening regularly. For example, you could set up a weekly transfer or even a bi-weekly one, depending on when you get paid. The more frequently you automate, the easier it becomes to build your savings.
Exactly. And remember, automating doesn't just apply to your savings account. You can also automate debt payments or investments if that's part of your financial plan. By setting up these automatic transfers, you're making progress toward your goals every single month without even thinking about it. It's a great way to stay disciplined with your finances.
Right, and the beauty of automation is that it works in the background. It's a set it and forget it kind of thing. The money goes where it needs to go, and you can focus on other financial goals without worrying about manually transferring funds every month.
Exactly. And as your income grows or your financial situation changes, you can always adjust the automatic transfer to save more. It's all about setting yourself up for long-term financial success with as little effort as possible. You'll be amazed at how quickly your savings add up when you make it automatic.
So in summary, automating your savings is an easy, effective way to build your savings without any extra effort. Set up automatic transfers from your paycheck or checking account and let the process do the work for you. It helps you save consistently and ensures that you're prioritizing your financial future, all without lifting a finger. Let's move on to another smart way to save money: reducing your utility bills. Now, we all know that utilities like electricity, water, and heating are regular expenses that we can't avoid. But the good news is there are plenty of simple changes you can make to lower those bills without sacrificing comfort. Whether it's being mindful of how you use energy or investing in energy-efficient appliances, these small adjustments can lead to long-term savings.
Absolutely, Ryan. And the first thing we can start with is electricity. One of the easiest ways to reduce your electric bill is by being more mindful of turning off lights when you're not using them. It sounds simple, but leaving lights on in rooms you're not using adds up over time. A good habit is to turn off lights when you leave a room, or consider using motion sensor lights in rooms that you use frequently. It's a small change, but it can make a big difference.
Exactly. And don't forget about turning off electronics that aren't in use. We all leave things plugged in without thinking about it, like your phone charger, TV, or computer. But even when they're turned off, they still use energy, a phenomenon called phantom energy, or vampire power. You can save money by unplugging devices when they're not being used or using power strips to easily turn off multiple electronics at once. This might seem like a small effort, but it adds up.
Great point, Ryan. Another big factor in your electric bill is heating and cooling. One simple way to save is by adjusting your thermostat. In the winter, lowering your thermostat by just a few degrees can reduce heating costs significantly. You can also do the opposite in the summer. Raise your thermostat a little to reduce cooling costs. Plus, you can get even more efficient by using a programmable thermostat, which adjusts the temperature automatically based on your schedule, so you're not wasting energy heating or cooling an empty house.
That's such a good tip, Priya. And speaking of heating, one of the simplest changes you can make is to seal up drafts. If your windows or doors have gaps, that cold air can sneak in during the winter, or cool air can escape during the summer. This means your heating and cooling systems are working harder and using more energy. Sealing gaps around windows, doors, and vents is an easy and inexpensive way to improve efficiency. You can also consider adding insulation in areas where heat escapes, like your attic or basement.
Exactly, Ryan. Another easy change is fixing leaks, especially with water. Leaky faucets or running toilets are often silent culprits that can add up on your water bill. You may not realize it, but a leaking faucet can waste hundreds of gallons of water over time. If you notice any leaks, it's a good idea to fix them as soon as possible. And if you have older appliances, like toilets or shower heads, consider upgrading to water-efficient models that use less water while still providing good performance.
That's a great point, Priya. Water conservation isn't just good for the environment, it's also great for your wallet. And while we're on the subject of appliances, another way to save is by investing in energy-efficient appliances. Modern appliances like refrigerators, washing machines, and dishwashers use less energy and water compared to older models. It might cost a bit more upfront, but the long-term savings on your utility bills will definitely make it worth it. Plus, appliances with the Energy Star label are designed to be 10 to 50% more energy efficient than standard models.
Exactly. And you don't always have to go out and buy new appliances to save money. For example, you can make sure your current appliances are running efficiently by regularly cleaning them. Vacuuming the coils of your refrigerator, for instance, helps it run more efficiently, and cleaning your washing machine can help it use less water. These are simple maintenance tasks that don't cost much but can save you quite a bit on your bills.
Small changes like that can really make a big impact. For example, I recently started being more conscious about my washing machine. Instead of washing small loads, I started waiting until I have a full load, which saves both water and electricity. Also, I switched to energy-efficient light bulbs, and while it wasn't a huge investment, it's made a noticeable difference in my monthly electricity bill.
That's a great example, Ryan. It's all about making a few simple adjustments and being mindful of how you use energy and water. Over time, these little habits can lead to significant savings. Even something as simple as taking shorter showers or turning off the water while you brush your teeth can make a difference. The more you're aware of your energy usage, the more you'll be able to cut those utility costs.
So, in summary, reducing your utility bills is about making small, consistent changes. Turn off lights and electronics when not in use, fix leaks, adjust your thermostat, and seal drafts. And don't forget about the long-term savings of energy-efficient appliances. By being more mindful of how you use energy and water, you'll see those bills start to drop. And over time, that can add up to a lot of savings. All right, let's talk about another great way to save money: buying in bulk. When most people think about buying in bulk, they immediately think about huge quantities of food. But buying in bulk isn't just about groceries. It's about purchasing non-perishable items like toiletries, cleaning products, and canned goods too. The benefits of buying in bulk are huge, especially if you have the space to store things properly. Not only can it save you money in the long run, but it also reduces the frequency of having to restock on essentials.
Exactly, Ryan. And the key to buying in bulk is choosing items that you actually use regularly. Non-perishable items like toilet paper, toothpaste, canned goods, and cleaning products are perfect for bulk purchases because they have a long shelf life. You're not worried about them expiring quickly, and when you buy them in larger quantities, you often get a better price per unit. For example, buying a 12-pack of toilet paper usually costs less per roll than buying a single pack every week.
That's a great point, Priya. It's all about the cost per unit. For example, when you buy cleaning products like laundry detergent, dish soap, or multi-surface cleaners in bulk, you'll see that the price per ounce or per bottle is usually lower than buying the smaller bottles. Plus, it's convenient to have a stockpile of these items at home, so you're not running out of them every few weeks. You can take advantage of sales and bulk discounts to really stretch your budget.
Exactly. And while buying in bulk can save you money, you also need to be smart about it to avoid waste. The last thing you want is to buy too much of something and end up throwing it out because you couldn't use it before it lost its effectiveness. So, the first thing I recommend is only buying in bulk for products you know you'll use up quickly. For example, Things like canned beans, pasta, or rice are great because they last a long time and are easy to incorporate into meals. These are items I always buy in bulk because I know I'll use them within a few months.
That's a great tip, Priya. And also, when buying in bulk, it's important to check for storage space. Make sure you have a place in your home to store these items safely. For things like toilet paper or cleaning products, a closet or pantry can work well. But if you're buying food items, especially things like rice or pasta, you'll want to make sure you can store them in airtight containers to keep them fresh.
Right, Ryan. Another tip is to compare the prices of bulk items across different stores or online platforms. Sometimes the bulk price at a warehouse store like Costco or Sam's Club is great, but you can also find competitive prices at grocery stores, especially during sales. I like to stock up when there's a sale on items I know I'll need, and I always try to buy enough to last me a few months so I'm not constantly going back to the store.
Smart strategy, Priya. And don't forget to check unit prices. Sometimes smaller packs are actually on sale at a better per-unit cost than the bulk versions. It's always a good idea to check the price per ounce or price per item to make sure you're getting the best deal. But once you know the items you regularly use, buying in bulk is a great way to ensure you're saving money over time.
Exactly. And finally, consider teaming up with friends or family if you're worried about having too much of something. For example, if you find a great deal on a giant pack of paper towels, you could split it with someone else. That way, you both benefit from the bulk savings without overstocking on something you don't need. It's a win-win.
So, to wrap it up, buying in bulk can save you a lot of money on non-perishable items like toiletries, canned goods, and cleaning supplies. The key is to buy items you know you'll use, store them properly, and always compare prices to make sure you're getting the best deal. When done right, buying in bulk can really stretch your budget. Now let's talk about something that trips up a lot of people: impulse purchases. You've probably been there. You walk into a store or browse online, and suddenly you see something you just have to have. It could be a gadget, a piece of clothing, or even something you didn't know you needed until you saw it. Impulse buying is incredibly common, but it's also one of the quickest ways to blow your budget. The good news is, there are strategies to help you resist those spontaneous buys and stick to your financial goals.
Absolutely, Ryan. And the reason we make impulse purchases is often tied to psychology. Retailers and online stores are experts at tempting us to buy things we didn't plan on. They know how to appeal to our emotions and create a sense of urgency. For example, sales or limited time offers make us feel like we might miss out, which triggers the fear of loss. And that can drive us to buy something on the spot. On top of that, when we're feeling stressed, bored, or emotional, we're more likely to give in to impulse buying as a way of feeling better.
Exactly. It's all about the emotional triggers that make us act without thinking. And let's not forget about the instant gratification factor. When you buy something, especially when it's something you want in the moment, it gives you a rush, like a small hit of dopamine in your brain. It feels good in the short term, but the regret often follows once you've spent the money and realize you didn't need that item after all.
That's so true, Ryan. But the good news is, there are ways to fight that impulse. One of the easiest strategies is to always make a shopping list before you go to the store, and stick to it. When you have a list, you know exactly what you need to buy, and you can avoid wandering down aisles or browsing online without a purpose. This not only helps you stay focused, but also keeps you from making unnecessary purchases that you don't really need.
That's a great tip, Priya. And if you're shopping online, it's even easier to be tempted to buy things you didn't plan for. One strategy I've found really helpful is to wait 24 hours before making any large purchase. If you see something you're tempted to buy, especially something that's not part of your immediate needs, put it in your cart and leave it for a day. Give yourself time to think about it. Often, after 24 hours, you'll realize that you don't really want it, or that it wasn't as important as you initially thought.
Exactly. That 24-hour waiting period can be a real game changer. It gives you time to evaluate whether that purchase is truly worth it, or if it's just an emotional reaction. You might find that after a day, you're no longer interested in the item at all, and that's money you didn't have to spend. I've used this strategy many times, and I've saved so much by simply giving myself time to think before making a purchase.
Another great strategy is to avoid stores or websites when you don't need to shop. It might sound simple, but it works. If you know you're in a spending mood or you're stressed out and looking for something to buy, it's best to stay away from places that tempt you to make unnecessary purchases. If you're not at a store, you can't buy anything, right? The same goes for online shopping. Try to avoid scrolling through e-commerce websites when you're bored. More often than not, you'll end up adding things to your cart that you don't need.
Absolutely. And one thing I also do is unsubscribe from email lists for stores or online shops that I know will send me tempting offers. I used to get emails all the time about sales, and before I knew it, I was clicking through and buying things just because they were on sale. If you don't see those deals constantly, it's much easier to avoid the temptation to buy. The fewer reminders you have, the less likely you are to make those impulse buys.
Right. And to add to that, if you're going to the store, make sure you're not hungry. I know it sounds odd, but it's actually a thing. Research shows that when we're hungry, we're more likely to make impulse purchases, especially when it comes to food. So, if you go grocery shopping on an empty stomach, you're probably going to fill up your cart with things you don't need.
That's such a great point, Ryan. And one last tip I have is to remember your financial goals when you're tempted to make an impulse purchase. Before buying anything, ask yourself, does this align with my financial goals? Is this more important than saving for something I really want, like a vacation or a new gadget? Keeping your long-term goals in mind can help you stay focused and resist the short-term temptation.
Exactly. If you make your financial goals clear and focus on the bigger picture, it's easier to resist the pull of instant gratification. Impulse buys might feel good in the moment, but the satisfaction fades quickly, while saving for something meaningful gives you a sense of achievement that lasts much longer.
So, to sum it up, impulse buying is all about emotional triggers and instant gratification. But by using strategies like making shopping lists, avoiding stores when you don't need anything, waiting 24 hours before big purchases, and keeping your financial goals in mind, you can reduce impulse buying and save a lot of money.
To wrap it up, avoiding impulse purchases is all about making mindful decisions and sticking to your goals. A little planning can save you a lot of money. By using strategies like making lists, waiting before buying, and keeping your financial goals in mind, you can stop those impulse buys and start saving more.